Good
Paola, the
morning.
floor is yours.
Thank you, Pablo. Thanks for sharing my presentation. And good morning, everybody. I join Fernando in wishing you a happy new year. Very good start in this new year. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what are the policy priorities for resilient free transport and logistics, and at the same time zero emission logistics, because when we define the topics under which the two projects have been funded, we discussed all the time that we need resilience. Resilience is priority, but decarbonization and zero emission issues have always to be taken into consideration. Next, please, Pablo. Indeed, transport resilience has been a priority not only for the logistics sector, but for the European policy, for the EU policy agenda since quite some time. And this is outlined in the Sustainable and Smart Mobility Strategy, which is the document published in 2020, in December 2020, as part of the European Green Deal, and that set the vision for the future of, at least our vision, of the future of transport. And the mobility strategy really anticipates that disruptions caused by climate change and extreme weather events are extremely problematic. Therefore, also there are issues like cybersecurity that is highlighted as an important point, considering all the automation and connectivity issues that we have in transport. Mainly the strategy focuses on the policy measures in the strategy include upgrade of physical and digital transport infrastructure, but there are many areas which are covered. And the idea is to safeguard transport continuity, multimodality, interoperability, and the emphasis is, of course, on the trans-European transport network, so the core network in Europe. Next, please. The same is this priority of resilience is also trickled down in all the activities, in all the policy initiatives and priorities that relate to freight transport and logistics. And I will not go through this, but among the sustainability, digitalization, automation, proper incentives for a green transformation transition, resilience is a key issue also for all the activities that relate to freight transport and logistics. And this was, of course, very clear when the strategy came about, because at the time we saw the issues that were caused by member states starting closing borders due to the pandemics. So all this, just to say that is a major priority. What are the actual actions and initiatives that the European Commission took to support resilience? Next slide, please. To support a resilient transport system, the Commission started with the communication on the green lanes that was adopted in March 2020, so really at the beginning of the pandemic. And this communication stresses the principle that the EU internal borders should stay open to freight and that the supply chains for essential products must be guaranteed. As I said, this was a problem at the beginning of the pandemic, and the communication provided guidelines for border management measures. Then the communication was followed up in 2022 with a more specific contingency plan for transport. And this transport aims to strengthen the resilience of EU transport in times of crisis. And the plan proposes actions to guide the activities, the initiatives of the European Union and the member states when they introduce emergency measures to respond to a crisis. And among these measures, there are, of course, information on measures regarding the connectivity, the passenger protections, efficient border management for freight, resilience to cyber attacks, and other measures. Cybersecurity, as I said, is a very important issue, as we know, due to the increased complexity of the transport sector. And the EU established in, I think at the beginning of 2020 or a few years ago, established dedicated agency, the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. And in 2023 adopted a directive on the security of network and information systems that actually constitutes a common baseline to enhance cyber resilience for different sectors, including transport. So it's also a baseline for cybersecurity in transport. And finally, of course, we have been dealing and we have tried to tackle resilience also in the research and innovation programs. And there were several actions, but they focused mainly in several topics and several initiatives. And they focused mainly on, of course, infrastructure. So to have weathered resilient physical infrastructure, vehicle technologies, but also digital infrastructure for increased automation. And we had activities like in the calls you applied to, in the areas of multimodalities across modal, intermodality across operators, some activities on urban mobility, including logistics, freight transport. So there were several areas. Next, please. Thank you. A new activity that the Commission is starting is a support study on climate adaptation and cross-border investment needs to realize the TEN-T network. This is a study actually that DG Move contracted at the end of 2023, so it's really ongoing. And the idea here, the context for this study is that there is a reduced safety and reliability of transport infrastructure due to climate change. And this created significant problems to the efficiency and to the functioning of the Trans-European transport network. And we have seen, as Fernando already mentioned, that in several occasions in the past, there were accidents caused by extreme events or natural disasters that interrupted the transport flows, important transport flows within Europe. There is understanding that there is a lack of an overall assessment of the vulnerabilities within the Trans-European transport network, and of what the impact of climate change is. And secondly, there is also a lack of information on what are exactly the cross-border investment needs, and for both the EU and the member states, and what should be the priorities for the investments in this area, again, both for the EU and the member states, to make certain to realize the Trans-European transport network. So the study will identify as an objective to identify the climate risks on the TEN-T network, to identify which are the adaptation measures that should address this climate risk, and what will be the corresponding costs. And the second objective is really to identify which are the cross-border investment gaps on the TEN-T and the extended core and extended core network, so that can inform the priorities for investment of the member states. The scope is on the entire TEN-T network for the climate risk assessment, and the core and extended core network for the cross-border investment gaps. And the investment needs analysis will have the horizon of 2030 and 2040. Why this is important? This is important because this study will inform the Commission decisions for investments, and especially for to design the next multi-annual financial framework and the next Connecting Europe facility, so the next programs. So it will be policy priorities and funding for the future. For your information, some first results should be available in March, and there should be a presentation in the Connecting Europe Days conference in April. So I would strongly invite you to participate if you can. and to take notice of the results of this study also in your projects. Next, please, Pablo. Thank you. Just to say what we expect, some points of consideration for this project. You may have, you have heard this already during the kickoff meeting, but I would like to point out as a few points actually that Fernando already mentioned. When we wrote the topic, what we wanted to see was an evaluation of the resilience of strategic logistic networks, proposed management system operations. The focus is increasing, of course, the resilience of the entire transport network. And there was a focus also on developing and demonstrate synchromodal approaches, so apply somehow some elements of the physical internet. Two points I really want to point out is, of course, that what we asked specifically in the topic was to bring together all the stakeholders at various levels. So not only logistics operator, but transport services, infrastructure networks, so to involve in the projects all the stakeholders that are essential to take decisions in a moment of crisis, and to have a real integrated approach. And then to look not only at the technical part, but also to look at the business intelligence capabilities, at the cost efficiency, at the business models which are required to make more resilient the entire logistics sector. What do we expect from the project? Of course, we expect that the project address all these issues, but in addition also that they look into applicability, replicability, scale up of all your results. So exploitation of results of the platforms, of the models, of the decision support tools, really applicability. And to do this, I fully agree with Fernando, we always agree on this, is necessary to engage and to involve from the beginning all the relevant stakeholders, the potential end users, whoever these end users are going to be for your specific activities. So I'm very glad for this webinar and for this with this activity organized by the project and projects and allies. And again, I can only support what Fernando said about collaboration. So collaborate, please, and build on what has been already done by previous and ongoing projects. And to this purpose, I added a little bit of a schema. Next, please, Pablo, on the projects that we have already been funding. But this information is definitely very well present, available within ALICE. I'm not going to go through this. Next, please, Pablo. To conclude, I would like to invite you to Connecting Europe Days. This is a conference that will focuses, of course, on the Trans-European Transport Network, so more on infrastructure, connectivity side, and we'll have discussions on really decarbonizing, resilient, seamless digital transport mobility networks in Europe. It takes place from the 2nd to the 4th of April in Brussels. Registration is free. There is a specific session that I'm organizing on infrastructure, but really from the point of view of a sustainable, resilient, and future-proof freight transport. So I would strongly invite you to participate if you can. I conclude here, and I really look forward to learn more about the projects and all your activity, and good luck for the continuation of work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paola, for your presentation.